All righty. So let's move on to simple step number 2 in our ways for 6 steps for high impact resident recruitment. This one is use collaborative exercises to stand out at career fairs. So, that's interesting that we bring that up, and I think everybody who had ever done career fairs knows what we should be doing. Well, let's tackle the why first. If you are a resident recruiting or you're out there doing career fairs, as many as you should be doing, you know that it's absolutely essential to focus and stand out. But if you'll notice that all the potential employers have basically the same items to share with prospective candidates. They have brochures about the hospitals. They probably have some details about the job openings. They probably give away, like Todd mentioned, a cup, a pen, a stress ball is always popular. They have, jars full of candies. So imagine this experience if you're a resident looking to start a career, or if you're a physician looking to looking for a change, that all the potential employers start to look the same. And by the end of the night, no one stands out. You've got bags full of stuff that you take home for the kids and the family pet. And Todd and I sincerely believe that recruiters, the good ones, the guys who are taking the time to be on the call today, that you guys need to actually yearn to want to connect at a deeper level with prospects so that you can build that rapport. Trust the relationships and build trust in the relationships for the long term, and even more, differentiate yourself in the crowd. It's easier said than done, though. One of the best ways that we've seen to do this, to facilitate a relationship that adds value, is to actually sit side by side with prospects and perform some sort of collaborative exercise that you guys can work around, a topic that's essential to their career decisions about what lies ahead. We've got topics such as what Todd was mentioning, review of their job search timeline, so that they don't overlook something that's going to create challenges for them somewhere later down the road. We also think that's an excellent side-by-side collaborative exercise is to sit down and review various compensation models so that they can understand the pros and the cons of a signing bonus, income guarantees, performance requirements. We also think that spending time to sit down and talk shoulder to shoulder collaboratively with your residents and potential recruits about the state requirements and some of the community resources that are going to be available if they decide to come not only work for you, but also that it could be the future home there where they would be working. We actually think sitting down and reviewing community resources and requirements is actually an excellent exercise to do with the spouses and family members. There is a surprising, I put this up here and Todd will go into it as well, there was a surprising number of these talented, ambitious, studious, intelligent residents and physicians actually struggle with some of the basics that a lot of people take for granted. How do you actually write and create a CV that's going to get attention? Even more than that, how are you actually going to prepare for the interview, know the proper etiquettes associated with making a favorable impression during that initial interview? All of these are absolutely outstanding topics. And there are a handful of others that can actually make for a valuable experience that can help you connect and collaborate at a deeper level and build that trust and build that relationship with each of the candidates. So, one of the things that's also essential is to be able to locate and use exercises that can be developed for this very discerning audience. We recommend it be absolutely relevant to the resident's position. So there's a lot of generic content about CVs and compensation models, but you need to make sure that it's relevant to the resident and physicians and their unique challenges. We also recommend that it come from credible industry sources, people who are professionals and understand and appreciate the very unique challenges facing this group. So we believe whatever exercises you pick, make sure that it connects and has credibility with the actual resident's physician. I think equally more important, you want to make a long-term impression. Don't give them a cup or a pen. give them something that they can take with them away from this actual collaborative exercise that's going to be an ongoing reference point for them, and they'll absolutely deeply appreciate and remember. And I know Todd stands behind the whole mantra of adding value, and always looking for what's in the best fit for them. So, what does the actual good collaborative exercise look like? Todd, let's take a look at one that we use and provide our partners an access to, and we call that the decision-making worksheet. I know you've used this a lot, and we reference it a lot, but why don't we take people through that so you give them an idea of what a good collaborative exercise that can stand out career fairs look like.
Yeah, this is just one resource out of many that you can leverage. It's called the decision-making worksheet, and as you guys probably know, there's a lot of anxiety, whether it's a doctor who is transitioning from their training into their life and career and they're choosing their first job, or if it's a practicing doctor that's relocating his family and making a big change in his life. There's anxiety. There's absolutely anxiety involved. And, they go out and they interview at a number of different places. And, one place has this place has that. And if they had their choice, they could move all the moving parts and make it the absolutely perfect, opportunity. And it's just hard for them to make a good decision. So we created a decision-making worksheet. And what it does, it helps the candidate remove the anxiety by really having them list their career and life values of what's really important to them. So going back to why they became a physician, going back to what's really important to them. So the candidate, what they do is they assign a number for every value that's important to them. And they rate that value between 1 to 5, 5 being the absolutely most critical, and 1 being not very important. And then what we have them do is we have them assign a probability value between 1 and 5 for each hospital group that they're interviewing. 1 would be very little probability that the value or priority would be fulfilled, and the 5 would be there's no doubt the value or priority would be fulfilled by the hospital group. And then lastly, what we do is we have the candidate multiply the importance value by the probability value, determine the value score. And so you can see down here, employer A, B, and C, you've got 159, 160, and I think this is 187. Not necessarily the one that has the highest value always wins. And I've taken people through this exercise many, many times, and what's happened many times is that they come back and say, I really want hospital B, but my score in hospital A is a lot higher. This is to help them through a deeper thinking level. And so it's not a perfect exercise, but it does provide that more deeper thinking. So on the left-hand side, there's a list of values. And sometimes what they'll do is what's really important to them, they'll have a value, but they'll kind of have it multiple times and they'll call it something a little bit differently. So it could skew the results. But the most important thing is this is a tool that they have some control on. They can speak to their spouse. And the purpose of you, the recruiter, providing this resource, regardless of which job they select, and whether they take your job or they don't, by you introducing the decision-making worksheet will help them think on that deeper level that I just spoke of, and it's going to help them drive their decision. If the candidate decides against your job, you benefit knowing sooner than later, as it's very critical because your interviewing team, a lot of people like to hold on the interview process because they really like a candidate. They're not going to move forward with other candidates until the one that they really like gives an answer. So certainly that benefits you, but it also benefits the candidate. And it really helps them make the right decision and kind of think things through on a deeper level. And again, I've taken candidates through this exercise, and I think this is a service you would like to provide that you'll have an opportunity to do so. So if this is something that you want to do, you can actually get on the phone and take them through it. A lot of them will allow you to do that once you build that trust and that relationship. Now, if you don't have time and you don't want it to be part of your process, that's okay. By just providing them the copy and providing them a little bit of instructions, you'll have a great result from it. So Dan, that's just one resource the decision-making worksheet. And I think what you were mentioning, go ahead.
I think it's outstanding. I think here's a question for all the attendees. If Todd talked about putting together the flow of your elevator pitch and your presentation and formatting that, making that available. Would this be helpful or useful for your next career fairs? And so, if you'd like to have this sort of resource at your disposal as a collaborative exercise, and you're interested in this, go ahead and type in 2 in the chat group, in the chat side, and okay, looks like, wow, okay, looks like everybody'd like to have access to this. So what we'll do here, let me make sure that, I think we put this up here, make sure that everybody types in, if you want access to this decision-making worksheet, feel free to type in info@adventuresinmedicine.com with the subject line of decision-making worksheet, and we'll send that out to you right after the conclusion of this webinar. So I think that looks like, Todd, everybody would love to have access to something like this to help guide that conversation. The other thing is that we need to make reference to that there is so many more other exercises that the actual career and life planning workbook that had been the cornerstone of Adventures in Medicine content distribution, the one that's been sent out to 22,500 residents each and every year for the last 7 years and more. There's a whole assortment of exercises and topics that will help each of you connect with residents and physicians on a deeper level. We talked a lot about different topics, kind of like the ones that Todd talked about earlier of interviewing and compensation and decision-making worksheet. So if you guys would like to have a complimentary copy of this actual career and life planning workbook, stay with us to the end. We'll give you some instructions on how to do that. And I think this, between what's in this career life planning workbook, a companion guide that you can help residents, physicians work through their challenges, along with the decision-making worksheet. Now you're starting to hopefully see that simple step number 2 of using collaborative exercises to connect at a deeper level is something that you're going to have some resources at your disposal to actually make happen. So let's make sure that I haven't overlooked anything before we jump on to the next one. Yeah, Todd, you know what? I look like I was surprised how many people typed in 2 and wanted to have access to that decision-making worksheet. So I'm glad we included that here. So that looks good. Okay.